Welcome, Kristen Henson, to Brokers and Brews. I'm, of course, Joe Muck, and my brew tonight is a little Sam Adams cherry wheat, and there's a reason for Sam Adams. What'd you bring to the table? And then let's talk about our why I wanted you on the show.
Awesome. You want me to show you what I'm drinking?
Absolutely.
So I used to be a Miller Lite person.
Okay.
I know that's gross, but
Good.
then I eased into summer shandies, and now I'm on stouts. So
Ooh,
tonight I am drinking a peanut butter chocolate milk stout by Lost Coast.
nice.
Let's-
Well, cheers
Yeah,
to you.
cheers. I here's my actual,
Very
but
nice.
it's delicious. But now I'm on like the peanut butter chocolate or the breakfast coffee stouts.
I wish I liked stouts because I like the little sip, that you get like in a sampler where I'm like, oh, that is good. Peanut butter and coffee and all these flavors. But once I get the glass, it's just not my cup of tea. As you can tell from my sweet cherry wheat, and I almost brought a summer shandy. So
I
um,
know.
so I intentionally went with Sam Adams because they kind of did a charitable thing where they bought back all their beer for the bars that couldn't, stay open and obviously serve during COVID-19.
Oh yeah.
And then they donated a couple $1 million to like some sort of restaurant fund. So it's very charitable on their behalf. And they're able to actually repurpose some of the beer and the hops and the alcohol for some sort of grain fuel or something. I don't know, but so it's not like it's a complete loss for them, but still something they didn't have to do.
Yeah.
And of course, you've been doing something you don't have to do with your program that I don't know if we can call it a charity because I don't think you're like a registered charity, but you've been feeding nurses and first responders and medical staff across, this area of Michigan for the last couple of months. Tell us
Yes.
about that. How'd you get started? Why? How's that going? And all that fun stuff.
All right. Well, when this whole COVID stuff started, and they started gradually kind of our ability to go out and do business as we normally do it. Um, my girlfriend Amy and I, who is a South Lyon mom as well, we reached out to one of our friends who is an ER physician at U of M. I'm sorry, no, she's not. She's at St. Joe. And my girlfriend Amy asked her, how can we help you guys? And she said, we'll never turn down a meal. This was this is probably when they had Michigan maybe had like around, I don't know, under 200 cases or something like that of COVID.
Sure.
And um I'm a little bit impulsive, and so I thought, you know, South Lyon is such a great community, and I wonder if I could get, kind of create like a charity, but like you said, we're not a true 503c or anything like that. And so trying to get people to kind of reach in their pockets to give money and trust that, we're just going to take the money and do the right thing and not really be officially um, a charity. I thought, let's just set this for like $500. We'll try to see what we can get and um, try to feed some of these people that seem to have, at this point, they were still working a lot of hours. And this escalated extremely quickly, as we all know, as far as how the cases and the numbers shot up. And so a lot of people were working well over 12-hour shifts, with inability to break or even, and especially even just purchase food. Um, the overnight staff, they don't have like Grubhub, and it's get into the hospitals or places that are serving respiratory departments, all sorts of stuff. And so we thought, let's just see what South Lyon can do. And I set it for 500. I actually went out, I created a logo to make us look more official and trustworthy. And I thought, you know what, let's just go for this, and let's set this for $1,000 because I think South Lyon will show up.
Sure.
as we kind of started inter or kind of inviting just our network of friends on Facebook, we hit the $1,000 within hours. It was amazing. And I think it just stumped us to think, we always knew, I believe that people are good by nature. And it just really, really pleasantly surprised us. So we then set our goal for like 1,500. And um, the next morning, I think I had set it for 2,000 that night before we went to bed, and the next morning we we're at 2,300. But Facebook actually turned off our ability to take donations because we had exceeded it, which I had no idea that that would happen.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, and so there's been, a lot of learning during, and so the long of the short is we started our journey, and we delivered food first and foremost to our girlfriend at St. Joe's for the overnight staff, and they loved it, and we just kind of have kept growing. And really, in a short period of time, I want to say it was like 5 days or maybe even four, we were at $10,000.
Yeah.
Um,
It
so
definitely went quick. I mean,
yeah,
so it's Feed Our Heroes and it's Facebook page, if you will, and I saw it, and maybe I was invited. I don't know, but I saw it early, and like you say, it was kind of like one of those things where you're like, okay, sure, I'll give like $10, and then a couple of minutes later, you're like, oh, what a jerk I must be because we're already at hundreds of dollars, and then like you said, hours or less than days, and you're at thousands of dollars, which was awesome. And so obviously the concept made perfect sense, but like I have to imagine coordinating where to go, how to get the food, that amount of food, keeping it hot, all those fun things, the things that probably restaurants have to figure out on a daily basis. I mean, like, so we kind of skipped the fact that you're a real estate agent by trade for Remax, and we're both in South Lyon, your office is in Novi, and suddenly you're responsible for delivering food. I mean, I saw you in St. Clair Shores and Chelsea and Ann Arbor and Novi, and I don't even know where else, but you were all over the place, out like Pontiac, right? For
went to Pontiac. We've been St. Clair Shores, Detroit, Downriver, Chelsea, Ann Arbor, um, Livonia. I mean, our we've been out in Howell. Um, our goal, really, when we decided to commit to this, was that we were going to try to touch every main hospital that we could within the Metro Detroit kind of footprint. And so what we did was we tried to go and print off all the hospitals in um, like southeastern Michigan, just so that we kind of had a check. And that really kind of helped us for places like over in St. Clair Shores or in Macomb County. Like we know a lot of the big ones, but there's been some, small, I don't want to call them mom and pop, but there's some smaller facilities that definitely help too. And so we tried to do that. We've had people who have reached out to us that maybe have spouses or siblings or just people that they care about that are on the front lines who gave us kind of a referral into certain departments. So we may have been to like the same hospital, but fed multiple departments. And we just tried, we really were all over it. It was very, very fun. It was fun, kind of bittersweet meeting all of these frontline workers. Luckily we were kind of the happy face because food makes most of us happy.
right,
And we were kind of that moment in time a lot where they could take a break and have a cooked meal, not a vending meal. And a lot of the cafeterias were not on like full time in many of these hospitals because
right,
they did cut staff, and obviously because of just safety. And
right.
so
Well, I mean, some of the hospitals like Henry Ford, West Bloomfield. I
mhm.
mean, they had brought in. like legit chefs, for their cafeteria. And I've known of people who will stop in for lunch. Like they're not going to the hospital; they just go for lunch because the food is like legit. And a lot of people took, a lot of other hospitals kind of tried to take from that idea, and like you said, they had to start kind of shutting that down more, just like the rest of our restaurant industry, where they wanted to try and prevent people from congregating. And then even the cafeterias that have stayed open, I know they've removed tables and they've done all kinds of stuff so that even the staff aren't sitting amongst themselves. And
Yeah,
I suppose we could, talk about or debate whether or not all those things make sense and they're good or they're bad or whatever. That's not for us to really decide. It's just what happened. And so for sure, food suddenly kind of became like a thing, and I think it is always. I mean, I know back when I was doing mortgages, they would always say, "Well, pop into a real estate office and bring food. Realtors love food," and I think that everybody loves food, so it's always like a way to somebody's heart. So, obviously, an amazing thing. And but you did like fire departments and stuff too, right?
we did. We've hit fire departments, police departments. We have hit assisted livings. Um, just trying to think a little bit also outside of the box to just the normal emergency room, which is the emergency room and the ICU and the COVID units are probably the number one food driven, or they're the main recipients of people bringing in food because they're the obvious ones that we think of.
Sure.
So we tried to, in the very beginning, I learned very quickly to ask for the charge nurse station because that was the direct connection to, ICU and the people that are actually at the front line and able to talk with me and schedule a food drop. Where as time um, as time kind of went on, people started uh, designating coordinators for hospitals. So it became a little bit more difficult to get in. Not that they are turning down food, but they wanted to coordinate it. They wanted to make sure, understandably, that the food was not just being cooked at Kristen Henson's house. Trust
Sure.
me, my family, but that that they're under the guidelines that the restaurants have to be at. And Amy and I committed to, not that it's a bad thing, and I'm certainly not putting it down, but I guess I just look at like our family, how much we have pizza at least once a week. And we committed to try to find restaurant partners
Hmm.
so that we were not only just helping these frontline staff, but we were helping potentially small business restaurants that were going to be struggling, to try to make revenues during all of this when they couldn't, open up their restaurants and have patrons come in. And we ended up having about 9 different restaurant partners throughout our journey that I know that they really appreciated, kind of our loyalty to them, and we loved giving back to them. We have found some of the most amazing restaurant owners that were so giving, and sometimes they would fight us on paying them, just because they had such big hearts and wanted to donate, 200 meals or whatever, a portion of the sales. And it's just this whole process has been extremely gratifying.
And so what are you at now? Because it's way up there.
Yeah, we have fed well over 3,000, you know, brought over three to people, and we're at just shy of $30,000. So um, it it's extremely humbling, and this the the outreach was so much further than, not just, I mean, obviously South Lyon, but so much further than just Metro Detroit. We are getting donations from all over the country that people probably, like, their families would hear about us, or people that would kind of keep a pulse on us. Like the Metro Detroit market, because they used to live here, they're from here, and from California to Florida to Wisconsin. I mean, and we would in the very beginning, we would kind of look at like who was donating, like how are we connected, because most of the time we had a connection between Amy or myself, with your Facebook friends, and it's a friend of a friend. And it's gotten to the point where we don't know anybody or
Yeah.
a lot of people that are donating, and it's just for the good of the cause. And but it's definitely slowed down. We are probably closer to the tail end of our deliveries. We do get donations now, but it's much at much slower pace, um, which is probably not a bad thing, because as I have been into the busy season, it seems like for about a week now with work, trying to juggle both of them and do deliveries every day and work on top of it. Um, Long term will be kind of difficult.
Sure.
So,
And that was something we talked about when I reached out to ask if you would do this. I said, like, so anybody who's watched any one of these has heard me say, like, that basically we got shut down, March 23rd officially. I mean, we may have been less active before that due to some other uh, things going on in the state, but officially we could not work unless we were in front of a computer like this starting March 23rd. And it didn't open back up till May 7th. So that was a long period of time. And it doesn't really matter if you were an agent who does $200 million, with your team, or you do $200,000 by yourself. You were going to be a little bit slower because there was just less things you could do. I mean, when you
yeah.
can't go to visit homes, or you can't knock on someone's door, you can't do an open house, you're just less busy. Um, and so I don't want to say you had the time, but clearly you had a different amount of time than you could dedicate now. But like during that time, what was your real estate side like? Because I mean, you've been in the industry a little while. You have a good business. You have a partner. I mean, you do a lot of transactions and a lot around here.
Mhm.
Were you getting a lot of calls about how to buy and sell real estate? Were you getting calls, people freaking out? Like, what did that side of the business things look like for you?
For me, I still really designated keeping a pulse on my real estate business, my clients. I would say it definitely slowed down. Um, I mean, quite a bit slowed down. And oh, did you lose me? Did I lose you? And but I think everyone is looking to you when they're trying to get ready to either sell a house or buy a house in this situation, and asking you what your take is, and looking for some sort of comfort that it's going to be okay, that people who have that are moving into different cities or moving out of state, or coming here, or whatever their situation is. And obviously none of us have a crystal ball.
Hmm.
um, and I mean, I'm just one person, and I kind of just kept the faith. I know that this is very real for a lot of people financially, where there's a struggle. People have been furloughed, let go, laid off. It's definitely affected, at least this time that we have been in isolation. And I know that it has to have some more effects of people, whose industries aren't going to be able to pick up like yours or mine. And I mean, I had 4 houses that I was under contract. One of them was just a few days from closing, in April, that we ended up not being able to go through with because of people being furloughed or let go, things like that.
Right.
However, I I have had a consistent amount of buyers and sellers kind of along the way, and I feel like, kind of looking back from that point just up into the last week, where we were kind of like let loose, where we could go show houses and be back in the field. Um, I feel like they kind of just were chomping at that bit for that little release. And I mean, I had several buyers consistently asking me, can we go in, and what if it's okay with the seller, and just not being able to do that. Um, but explaining to them, that it's going to be kind of like fair. It's going to be a fair playing field because we're all going to be released at the same time.
Right.
Um, and I think if this last week is any indication of what our market will be like as far as the housing market, I'm more pleasantly kind of surprised how busy it's been in the last week, to the tune of easily working 12 hours a day,
Hmm.
um, showing houses. I've put 4 offers in this week, and we got two, and every single one of them is a multiple offer. Um, I have, probably, I think,
What
six.
what were
You
those
know,
price? What was the price range like for the four, low to high? I don't need specifics
um,
unless you want to.
180. The high is probably around five.
Yeah, and multiple offers on a five or around five.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the. I think it, people are still wanting to move, and I know that it has affected a lot of people, and I, certainly feel bad about that, um, and hopefully their industries and their whatever they do, they can get back to sooner than later, because obviously our economy is struggling a little bit. But I think, for people, many people still are in gear to purchase or sell their home, and I mean, I feel like I'm in a normal, busy springtime, and I kind of have to remind myself that it's not normal, and a lot of my friends are still not back to work, and it's very far from a normal situation yet.
Sure. Well, and I think it's been somewhat difficult dealing with that because as an agent, you want to have a lot of positivity because you've got four multiple offer scenarios going on. That's great as an agent. It's bad for the buyers who are losing out. It's great for the sellers who are selling. But ultimately, but then at the same time, you almost feel bad putting a smile on your face when you know that somebody else is so far from a smile coming, especially about work, right? It's like work's great and then it's not great. And I don't know, I don't remember who gave me the number. So it was like, I don't know if it was like a big legit news site or if it was like a small local. But, I mean, today, supposedly 23% in Michigan unemployment. And I think some of that number might be a little off because, as we know, real estate agents who traditionally could never file for unemployment, we were able to. And I don't know what the rule is now because we're allowed to work, but I mean, just like anybody else, not everybody's back to work for various reasons. So I don't know how that's working. But just our industry, there were potentially 33,000 people that filed unemployment that might not be filing this week. So I mean, these numbers are possibly skewed, but they're also real. They're, like you said, there are people that haven't gone back to work and people that are struggling. But there's definitely a lot of people that are trying to buy and sell. I mean, I took some people into a house. It was on the market for one day, and by the time between that day and the next day's showing request, they had 40.
I know, it's crazy.
And the upside was everyone was following the rules of not being in the house together. So, as you know, normally in that
Yeah,
scenario, you're in there with your client. I show up. I just come in because like we're not going to wait. Like everyone's, it's like a virtual. It's an old word, virtual open house. Now we have them, but it was like a virtual open house because the seller or the agent wasn't there, but all of us were there with all our showings. Now we're waiting, and we wait for you to come out and even lock the door and stuff. And then we come in with our stuff on, our masks and everything, and then we do ours, and then rotate. But it's definitely been, like you say, kind of like a pleasant surprise. I'm not shocked by it, but I am surprised. I'm surprised by the amount of people that have reached out about buying versus selling. Um, I normally am probably about a 60 to 65% of my business is probably on the listing side. And while I do have a couple listings, coming up and active, I also have three times that amount of buyers that are like every day should we go see this house, or should we go out this weekend, or what time can we go? Um, and those people, they weren't there even March 15th, let alone, April. So
Right.
they kind of come out. And I think the main call I got was, is the market going to crash? Is my house going to devalue? Um, and if so, from some people, they'd say, well, let me know, because, I've been looking to upsize and I can take advantage.
Yep.
And the best I could say was, I don't think so. And, I mean, I had data for it and what have you, but here we are, and it sure isn't that way, is it? I mean, you've got multiple offers on $500,000. I'm seeing them, in the ones and twos, taking people out and stuff like that. It's been a pretty hot market once we've kind of been back to it. Like I said, it's not quite normal, but it's
Yeah.
semi normal.
Yeah. And I think the interest rates being low, and really, from what I understand, anticipate even potentially going lower, and giving our buyers even more buying power. Hopefully that, in turn, I know, I'm guessing that a lot of that is to do with stimulating the market, and um, but it's, I mean, they're crazy low again,
Mhm.
and these buyers are also able to get a lot more house for their money.
Absolutely. I mean, when an interest rate is somewhere in that 3% range, give or take,
Yeah,
um, I mean, even on the amortization schedule, which is normally really scary to look at on a 30-year, you go like, oh my God, I'm going to pay, $600,000 for this $200,000 house. Not now. It's like 40 grand over, 30 years. I mean, it's like crazy, because I always say to people who are waiting for a lower rate, and I would say, well, we don't know that it's going lower. It can't go to the bottom. Like, it can't go to zero. So it might not be worth waiting for another quarter of a percent. Talk to the loan person and it'll tell you what a difference another quarter or even half of a percent would actually make. And on some
yeah,
of these numbers, it's not a big deal. But the other part is, like, if you had $200,000, would you consider loaning it to somebody for 30 years at 3% interest? Because I know I wouldn't. So, I
right,
mean, take advantage, because, the banks and the government want to do as much as they can to raise those rates. They don't want to keep them low. They want to be able to raise them, but they can't right now because they have to keep people buying and invested in the real estate market.
correct.
So, we're both in South Lyon, and actually, I mean, we're not across the street, but we're
Oh,
what's that?
I said, and I like doing business with you.
That's true. And I like doing business with you, and that's how we met each other, was on a similar closing, and then we've shown each other's properties a few times. But we're in like neighboring um, communities where the two subdivisions are across from each other. Price points are about the same. I mean, just within your own community, um, do you find a lot of people kind of reaching out about anything, as far as just thinking about listing, thinking about buying, anything like that? Whether it's a second home or getting rid of this one or whatever.
I definitely have had people reaching out to me just even this week, looking for the typical foreclosures, the people that are kind of hearing the economic situation, and you know they're trying to think back and be more ahead of the game of what, like, 2009, 10, 11, all that stuff brought. And you know hopefully we don't get to that position, because I I don't think it's really good for 98+ % of people.
Right.
But in South Lyon, um my neighborhood, we downsized, and so my neighborhood is a lot of ranches and a lot of older people that have been here for a long time. They're not really planning on going anywhere soon. But my last neighborhood, which is right across from your old neighborhood, I think, I definitely do a fair amount of um, work in there. And I'm meeting with people already in that neighborhood and surrounding neighborhood, like we're all in. And
Right.
but yeah, they're definitely reaching out for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, kind of talking about, some of these conversations. I mean, I had a person who had to take a smaller pre-approval from when they first were pre-approved because they had to take a pay cut for work. Fortunately, they kept their job, but they had to take a pay cut. But I've also had two people reach out and say, actually, I can buy for more than I was thinking about buying. And
Right.
one of them was a purchase, like their personal preference, right? Like they were pre-approved for way more than they were thinking about, and they decided to, go up a little bit just to find what they're looking for, and they'll have that probably signed tomorrow for that purchase. But it's definitely been interesting, um, to say the least. Just kind of just the dynamics of the calls, the doing these types of meetings with people. It's kind of strange. Uh, at least maybe an introduction meeting now that we can actually go see each other. Um, Outside of the fact that you were delivering hundreds of meals a day and being a real estate agent, did you get to do anything that like the rest of us did? Did you catch up on some Netflix shows or Amazon?
I did. I actually gained weight. That was fun getting there. It's not so fun now. We have, if I showed you my living room right now, it's like half of our bedroom is sitting in there because we redid the floor and closets. And so we actually have been able to do a lot of projects that have been kind of on our to-do list. So on one sense, that was good. And then, I have three daughters. Two of them, they're grown and they don't live at home anymore. So that's been a little bit of a struggle, not being able I mean, we do kind of social distancing visits,
Hmm.
um, where we, sit in, I don't know, like a driveway or
Yeah.
whatnot. Or I've actually met with she'll be 23 this Saturday, and we go up and have quote unquote lunch where she sits in her car, and she works at Beaumont Royal Oak. So, um, not wanting to get the bugs from
Yeah.
there, uh, we kind of reverse our cars. So each of our driver's seat is sitting there. We sit there and chit chat and eat meals, carry out or whatnot. And my 14-year-old and I have really tried to do a movie a day, on Netflix, and have watched some good shows. And so it's, as much as I really want everything to get back to normal, I think just even like missing hugging my daughters and things like that, just the simple things that we take for granted. I hope that we, um, as human beings, do not forget all the stuff that we realized was so important and took for granted on almost a daily basis, now that we can't do it. And um, I do think that I know that we've lost people, and it's tragic. Um, and I hope, especially in spite of all that, we will remember how to stay in touch with the people that we care about and check in. And it's, if I'm being honest, it's been a little bit of a mental struggle, a little bit, here and there, just trying to keep my head right. I have a grandmother who's 96 years old who lives alone. Um, and the biggest challenge with her is trying to keep her head right because she still drives, believe it or not. And we have been literally, I, I actually talked to Mojo in the morning about this, but fisticuffs, fighting, screaming, crying over the phone because she won't stay at home. She
Yeah.
keeps taking herself to Aldi or Rite Aid or the dollar store. And she thinks, because she has been through like polio and some of these crazy, crazy things, in a life of 96 years, that, she's going to be fine. And maybe she's right. I hope she's right. But
Right.
I worry about stuff like that.
We've had similar. My mother-in-law is remarried, so when I say father-in-law, that's who I'm referring to right here. And He is he's not a germaphobe, but he is. Like he's not like Howie Mandel, but he also is the type of person that he goes on an airplane and he just says immediately when he gets off how he's sick and it's because of the recirculated air and all this other stuff. He's just always this way, right? But he's
Yeah.
not like afraid to like shake your hand or something. But anyways, so he was like not really freaked out, but kind of was, a little concerned. So he wanted to get hand sanitizer because he didn't have enough in his condo, and so he went to like 50 stores looking for it. It's like if you would stay at
Right.
home, you wouldn't need the hand sanitizer. So so we have an idea of the frustration that you speak of. And
Yeah.
they're actually in a condo down in Florida. So again, like a very different view of how things should be, and whether things should be opened or closed, and and so it's an interesting, conversation. But that one was just particularly funny because he's like, "Well, I got to have hand sanitizer," and he was going everywhere in a car, on a bike, walking, whatever. So pretty
Yeah.
funny stuff there.
She has to get her blood draw. She did go without like a blood draw for like a month, but she's on a blood thinner, so they have to check her blood typically once a week. And so, amongst all of this fighting, I mean, and this fighting went on for a good 3 or 4 weeks, and now she's kind of settled a little bit. I could tell you stories that we could make a whole show over her. But so I've, we bring her meals. My all of our family drops off groceries, and what she can't want for anything as far as like needing. What she needs is human interaction, and so she has hand sanitizer for her car. And she continually tells me, I wash my hands all the time. I use that sanitizer all the time inside the house. I'm like, it's not for you. I'm like, you're the only one in there. Like, you
Right.
need sanitizer for inside the house. So we have this long talk. She goes to her blood draw. And I'm like, of all places, you're going to this IHA, place where people go for blood draws when they're sick or whatever. And she's like, you would be so proud of me. She's like, I sanitized my cane. I sprayed my car down. I wiped my purse. I washed my hands. And then I went in. I'm like, so did you wash your hands when you came out? She's like, Kristen, I wash my hands all the time. I think she thinks it's like bug spray, like protected. And I don't even have any more fight in me. So,
Yeah. Well, there is that, right? I mean, she's done 96 years, and so, she probably has definitely seen some things that hopefully we'll never even know about seeing. But yeah, I haven't, I've been fortunate to not have those fights, but, the unfortunate part, like you say, of seeing people where, my dad is by himself and, lives just over in like the Wayne Westland area.
mhm,
And so I'll have him check in with me if he needs some groceries, and he's got a neighbor who picks up some stuff for him, and he has some other services. But, it's just like my son's birthday is next week, and we don't ever really do big parties. We either do something really small or we go somewhere, like go to Great Wolf Lodge or go to Cedar Point or
mhm,
something like that. And but he's not even going to be able to really come over for dinner. And part of that is because my wife works at the hospital. This week she was literally testing drive up COVID-19 drive up tests. So who knows, right? Like she might have something, she might not, I don't know. And so we're not going to put my dad subject to that at his age, plus some health, plus just why would you do that? So it's definitely different, but I do think that maybe, I don't know, maybe people will get used to something else. But I think a lot of us realized, how often we sat in a group with each other and we sat kind of like this,
yeah,
and so it's kind of like we weren't social, right? And we didn't think it was a big deal. But now we've realized that whether you wanted it, you don't want it, whether you believe in it, you don't believe in it, that was taken away, at least for a while. Some
yeah,
people obviously have changed their opinions and have decided to move on. But overall, it's just not the same. No matter what, we all can't get together at the local bar right now. We can't go bowling or play a sport together other than maybe golf or tennis or something like that. You know, and so I do think that a lot of people are revaluing like relationships and human contact and interaction. The fact that people will do a Zoom birthday meeting, to me is kind of shows that like we really miss, you know, each other. We really want to see each other more
Yeah.
and again. And so hopefully that's sometime, you know, around the corner sooner rather than later. But you know, I think obviously the hard part is like what's safe and what's not safe, and your beliefs versus mine and all that type of stuff. It makes it difficult, but you know, we'll get there at some point, I'm sure. Just I don't know when. You know.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's so many different people's comfort. Everyone kind of seems to have a different level of comfort as far as what they feel safe given, you know, as it is today, going to the grocery store or not going to the grocery store, wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, giving up and saying, you know what, I'm just going to roll the dice. If it gets me, it gets me. And people that are like, you know, completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I respect every one of them. I just, what bothers me is the unkindness that people are displaying one way or the other, whether no matter what their beliefs are. It's just, you know, if people could just respect that there's a difference of respect or different of opinion,
Hmm.
you know, do what you need to do as kind of a human, but understand it's kind of like when you had the old smoking sections, which you're probably way too young to even
Oh,
remember.
I and both parents were smokers, and so an old dad still is, and so no, I'm fully
You,
aware of.
you know, like you're, you know, when you're out, you know, Kroger, I think, has done a fantastic job. Just as a for instance, you know, with when you go in and they're constantly wiping everything down, and I think they've done some, you know, great precautions as much as they can do. And then, but you go in and you see the one person that just sticks inside of my mind, and she's just coughing everywhere with no mask on,
Yeah,
and it's like kind of like shake your head, but
no,
just
I think about those people that we were grossed out by before there was a nasty virus out here that was taking lives. Like that person, you always, you know, you'd be in a restaurant and someone's hacking in the booth next to you,
yeah,
and maybe they can't help it. So I'm not trying to, you know, but maybe they can, or maybe they could have waited another day to come out because maybe they're getting over something, and and so those folks always kind of like ruffled your feathers, so to speak. And then now you see them, and there's a strong belief as far as what coughing and sneezing could actually do to somebody, and
oh
you
yeah,
see it. And actually, it's kind of funny when we first started to kind of wear the masks. I said I'm kind of glad because even when I'm in the store, you know, you're not talking to anyone and stuff anymore, and so you have to kind of clear your throat. And I just feel like people start looking when you go like right, and so I'm like I'm glad I have the mask on now so that people don't look at me wondering like, is he sick? You know, and stuff like that. But I agree. I think Kroger. I mean, a lot of stores have done a lot of things, but Kroger. I had to go to the one in town, you know, within the first few weeks, and I mean, they had like signs even saying like the carts inside are wiped down, you know, and then you walked in and someone had already wiped them down, and then he gave it one more wipe and kind of pushed it out to you, so you had to stay, he could stay away, and they've continued that at every Kroger location I've gone to, and I've been to at
yeah,
least three, so they really have done a great job. A lot of people are doing a great job, and I think, like you said, if people would just be a little bit more respectful of each other and not call each other dumb or whatever.
many things that we probably shouldn't say in this, but
Well,
yeah.
we've sworn before, but yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, you're not going to get anywhere either that way, right? I mean, if we just fight, then we don't solve anything, you know. So hopefully, hopefully, better days are upon us. That's all I can really say.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of said this earlier. I mean, are you going to just end the food delivery, or if somebody wanted to take it over, would you do that, or like how, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to take it over, absolutely. Um, it would just basically be the concept of it, and um, because right now um, the funds go into our bank account and we disperse them. We keep 100% of, you know, every ledger, every penny we spend and every penny we receive. And as long as someone wants to take that, for sure. We donate 100% of every single penny that we get to these frontline workers. We do not pay for our gas. We don't pay for our, let's just call it PPE, our masks and sanitizer. We don't, I mean, we take nothing. And um, I, I do want to mention, just in case somebody's watching that has donated, that in truth, Amy and I, and we have two volunteers who have helped us for about the last 4 weeks deliver. We could not have even sniffed doing what we have done without this Metro Detroit community and beyond. Like I said, out of state, and really the big thanks goes to all of these people who have donated um, and put their trust in us to basically be the face of all of them when we go and take care of these frontline workers.
Absolutely. I guess, because we've said some, it's the good part of Facebook. It's the good part of social media, arguably what it's supposed to be, because you could have never gotten in front of people out of state so quickly. You could have never gotten in front of this many people, even in state. It takes three, four, five shares for suddenly thousands of people to see it and
Yep.
just dozens or hundreds of people to donate. And when you start talking those numbers, I mean, if 100 people donate $10, I mean, you've got meals for the week. So it's like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the big crazy donations. It could be anything, and especially when you're reaching the volume that you're reaching. So
And
um,
we're donations from, we may deliver 10 meals to, we just did locally here to a couple, um, like assisted livings. We did the police department here. At, as large as last night, we did 275 meals to Grace Sinai down in Detroit, which, and looking at the news, it's still really tough down there. It's way better, but it's tough. And anywhere in between, we're looking, we still have a little bit of money left. It's not a lot. So we will ultimately go as long as we continue to have donations.
sure. Well, obviously, have done a great thing. Just just really cool. I mean, like I think I told you, I was like thinking, oh, I should do something, but it was a thought and I never followed through on it. And you thought I should do something and then you did it and you see how well it turned out for, everybody that you guys have been able to help is really awesome. Like you said, the community amongst us that have donated and have made it possible, you and your friends, that have been partners in this to help coordinate everything and deliver everything has been awesome.
Mhm.
And I know, like, I think this is like the first time that you've ever co-mingled the fact that you're a real estate agent doing this, because you just knew like you were doing this from the heart. It had nothing to do with anything else, and it was really an awesome thing. And so I was glad we could talk about it. I'm glad that you did it, and are willing to kind of keep moving forward with it if there's some funds there. And obviously, you've got friends that are helping out and stuff like that. It's just really cool thing. So besides being a great real estate agent, a great person, and I really appreciate you joining us, for this and talking about it a little bit.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out, Joe. It's been nice, and I look forward to running into you out there in the field.
Sounds good. Going away. Cheers to you, and
Cheers.
have a great rest of your 2020. We'll talk soon.
Talk to you later. Thank you.